So as you probably already know, the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer dropped yesterday, and a lot of people had a lot of different thoughts on the trailer. A lot of fans loved it, but of course, the woke mob on Twitter came after it, just like everything else that all of the true fans love. Let's check it out. So if you were also tired of pop culture being ruined, of stuff like the 2016 Ghostbusters happening, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I try to post multiple videos on this channel every single day. Let's get into the video. So yeah, like I said, the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer dropped, and pretty much everyone out there, it seemed like, who's a true diehard Ghostbusters fan. I'm not going to say that I'm a diehard Ghostbusters fan, but I definitely am a fan. Ever since I was a little kid, I liked the Ghostbusters movies. I like the soundtracks, all of that good stuff. I'm not a diehard fan, but I do know a lot of diehard fans out there, and it seemed like universally, pretty much, all of them who have been a Ghostbusters fan ever since they were little kids, all of these people who claim to be diehard fans, they like the trailer. But of course, when I go on Twitter and I look up Ghostbusters and I see all of the responses to the Ghostbusters trailer, there are people out there saying stuff, you know, about the politics about the Ghostbusters trailer instead of the actual content of the trailer, instead of the actual content of what's going to come from this movie that I think is probably going to be a pretty big win for fans, not only of Ghostbusters, but fans of pop culture. I think that 100% going from the 2016 Ghostbusters movie to what it seems like we're going to get in this movie is a huge win for fandom, you know, not just for Ghostbusters fan, but for fandom in general. Let's check out some of the responses, some of these absolute jokes of responses to this Ghostbusters trailer. So as you can see, Scott Mendelson, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but let's check out what he has to say. In 10 years, we've gone from Super 8 to Ghostbusters Afterlife, and you all wondered why I was grouchy after seeing The Force Awakens. A lot of people have been comparing it to The Force Awakens. We'll get to that in a second. I can only wonder if Ghostbusters Afterlife will deal with the Reagan-era politics of the original, which unintentionally, perhaps, served as a defining governmental regulations will only make things worse fantasy for a generation of impressionable moviegoers. Here's the thing, Scott. Nobody cares about that, man. We're all just out here trying to see a fun Ghostbusters movie. That's really what we're out here trying to see for every movie. Maybe it's not always a fun movie. It's not always a Ghostbusters or, you know, just shove popcorn in your mouth type movie like Godzilla versus Kong or something like that. Sometimes we want to see movies like Joker, which aren't necessarily a blast to watch, but it's a good movie. You know, after you see the movie, you're happy with what you saw. It's a good, well-made movie that made you feel something. But movies like Ghostbusters, you're just out there trying to have fun, and yes, you want to see some deep storytelling, and now because of the original cast, because of the original movies that we saw way back in the day, now we have the opportunity to also throw that nostalgia in there, which a lot of people are complaining about. But nostalgia can be a powerful movie telling tactic. It can be a powerful tool if you don't rely on it too hard and if you throw it in there in the right spots. A lot of people are complaining about the nostalgia being thrown in there as well. As the movie Ghostbusters holds up quite well, it was merely trying to be a fantastical variation of Caddyshack snobs versus slobs formula, not a political screed. But if we're giving it the unimpeachable classic nostalgia treatment, that deserves to be in the discourse. Dude, we just don't want the politics to be in there. I don't know why people like Scott are obsessing over politics being in movies. That's the opposite of what we want. We want escapism. Marvel always throws that term around, that escapism term. They put that in a lot of trailers and stuff. When Marvel in their shows and in their movies recently have been doing the exact opposite of escapism. They've been throwing in a lot of real life politics, especially in the stuff like Falcon and Winter Soldier. They're throwing in that real life politics all over the place. And that's just not what we want. That's not what we want out of Marvel. That's not what we want out of any pop culture, out of any movies or TV shows. We go into them trying to escape the real world, not have it shoved down our throat even more. And for some reason, these big media companies, these big movie companies just cannot grasp that idea that we're not out here looking for, Scott Mendelson is the minority. We don't want to see Reagan era politics of the original and all that stuff that he's talking about in here. We just don't want to see that. He is in the minority, and you can see that in his comments. You can see that in his replies. A lot of people have very much a problem with the trailer, but I don't think a lot of people want to see politics in the trailer. I don't think a lot of people want to see politics in the Ghostbusters movie, and not just the Ghostbusters movie, but just in pop culture in general. We just don't want to see these politics in there because it's a divisive thing that's just totally unnecessary. But this guy says, please give me a break. Enough with the politics from any side. I just want to be entertained and forget for a little bit the reality that we live in, which is hard enough. Exactly, man. It's hard enough to forget the reality that we live in, but when you start putting the politics into these movies, into these shows, you make it even harder. This person says, remember when Ghostbusters was a comedy franchise? Look, man, Paul Rudd is in this movie. There's going to be some jokes. There's 100% going to be jokes in this Ghostbusters movie. What they're trying to do is trying to make people forget about the 2016 version where everything was a joke and none of them were funny. Absolutely zero of them were funny. They're trying to make people forget about the 2016 version and show us that they can tell some serious Ghostbusters stories. But Paul Rudd is in the movie. There's going to be jokes. There's 100% going to be jokes in a Ghostbusters movie. We're going to have a fun time. We're going to have a lot of laughs. We're also going to see some serious storytelling moments. I'm sure some touching moments as well as some nostalgia moments. That's how it's going to be 100%. Unlike The Force Awakens, hopefully the original characters will at least share a scene. Well, considering one of the original actors is dead, I don't see that happening, champ. Yeah, but I think that they could still put some of the original cast together even though one of them is dead. I may have a blind spot to it, but I think sometimes nostalgia is overplayed as a reason people are watching and liking a thing. Many of those doing so have zero connection to those times, films, etc. However, I get what you're saying here. I get that it's part of a whole. But nostalgia is not always a bad thing though. Like people are saying in The Force Awakens that nostalgia definitely did take over the storytelling because Star Wars is coming back after so long of being gone, especially these original trilogy characters. They're coming back after like 40 years of being gone or something like that. It was a crazy achievement. It was a crazy time in film. Star Wars was returning. You have to play into that nostalgia. It's an easy win. It's an easy way to tell a story that everyone is going to love. If you tell a story with no nostalgia, imagine if they told the Force Awakens story and they didn't have the original cast in prominent roles. Imagine if they didn't have that nostalgia. People would 100% be complaining about that as well. Since one of the major appeals of the fantasy genre is escapism, it makes sense on some level why franchises like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings lean on reverence and nostalgia. But Ghostbusters was a self-aware comedy starring the most famous comedians of its day. The whole approach is weird. Like I said, there is 100% going to be comedy in this. We're going to get a lot of laughs out of this, but I think that they do want to lead a little bit more into the serious side as opposed to the 2016 version, which apparently a lot of people loved. You know, apparently all these people out here are loving the 2016 version, even though it didn't do that well. Scott Menderson replies to this person after this person says, "Is it a pretty safe bet that this will be the lowest domestic grosser of the franchise?" It is not going to be it, dude. 100% this movie is outperforming the 2016 version. I don't care what happens in the movie as long as it's not absolutely god awful. It's going to outperform the 2016 version. There is no doubt about that. Maybe because of what's going on in the world, it might not outperform them, but considering what's going on, I think that if you take into consideration everything that's going on in the world right now, this movie is going to do better than the 2016 version did. This person says Scott Mendelson's account activity is so nonsensical. I'm convinced it's managed by a bot, a malfunctioning bot. Yeah, the guy is kind of a lunatic at times. I'm not going to lie. I don't see any problem with that. Of course, I love The Force Awakens. Now, this guy right here really gets it. People did not go and see the 2016 version of Ghostbusters because it was a film that starred women. They resented the film, plus didn't attend it because they wanted a proper sequel with original iconic cast. These legendary franchises plus their cast means something to people. Exactly, this doesn't seem like some boring nostalgia-driven movie. This seems like a movie that pays respect to the original cast, that pays respect to the original movies, while also pushing forward, while also passing the torch, passing the baton over to the next generation. And it's going to be funny and it's going to be fun to watch. It's 100% going to have comedy in it. So those people that are worried about that, you have nothing to worry about in that sense. But this movie, already just from the trailer, you can tell that it respects the original cast, it respects the original movies, it respects the source material per se, more than the 2016 version. You can already tell that. And people out there saying that the 2016 version is going to be better, that it's going to do better at the box office, you might be right because of what's happening in the world. But if you take all that into consideration, if you take what's happening into the world into consideration, this movie is 100% doing better than the 2016 version. It might even do better than stuff like Black Widow. I know that's a crazy prediction, but I think that it very well might, because if people start to hear that we finally got a good Ghostbusters sequel, that really might get people in theaters, that really might get people paying to go see this movie. It really might do very well. If the word of mouth, if the Rotten Tomatoes scores end up being very good, we could really see some big numbers for this movie at the box office. So let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. What do you think about the new Ghostbusters trailer? What do you think about all the backlash for the movie, saying that it's just nostalgia driven stuff, that it's not really good storytelling, it's all going to be based around nostalgia, and that there's no comedy, the movie's not going to be fun, it's too serious, all of that stuff? I think we're going to be completely fine because, like I said, we have Paul Rudd in the movie and they understand what Ghostbusters is. They have to understand, if they're bringing back the original cast and all of that stuff, they have to understand what Ghostbusters truly is at its core. So we're going to have fun, we're going to see some comedy stuff in there, but I think it's also going to be a little bit more on the serious side than, say, the 2016 Ghostbusters movie. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, both those links will be in the description as well. Thank you for watching the video. Hope to see you in the next one.